Ethan Sinclair, a millionaire, saves Maria, a poor little girl who was hit by a motorcyclist, taking her to the hospital and staying with her until her mother arrives. When she arrives, he doesn't believe it. What connects a lonely millionaire, an immigrant mother, and her injured daughter in a meeting that will change their lives forever? Before we continue, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching the video from. And don't forget to subscribe. Ethan Sinclair stood at the entrance of the grand ballroom, the flickering chandeliers casting a warm glow over the sea of elegantly dressed patrons. The charity gala, a glittering affair meant to raise funds for underprivileged children, had been a resounding success. As a successful entrepreneur, he was accustomed to these events, where the clinking of champagne glasses and the rustle of designer gowns created an atmosphere of opulence. Yet, beneath the surface, he felt a peculiar unease, a sense of disconnection from the very cause he had come to support. After exchanging pleasantries and polite smiles, Ethan decided it was time to leave. The night air was crisp as he stepped outside, the sounds of laughter and music fading into the background. He walked briskly down the bustling city street, the glow of neon lights illuminating his path. The city was alive with energy, yet he felt strangely isolated, his mind occupied with thoughts of his own success and the emptiness it sometimes brought. As he rounded a corner, the unexpected happened. A loud screech echoed through the night, followed by the sickening thud of metal colliding with flesh. Ethan's heart dropped as he turned to see a small figure crumpled on the asphalt. Panic surged within him, and without a second thought, he dashed towards the scene. Time seemed to slow as he approached, the world around him fading away, leaving only the urgent need to help. There, lying on the ground, was a little girl, no more than 8 years old. Her dark hair was tousled, and her wide, frightened eyes were locked onto his. She clutched a worn teddy bear tightly against her chest, its fur stained and frayed, a stark contrast to the pristine surroundings of the gala. Ethan knelt beside her, his heart racing, his mind racing faster. He could see the pain etched across her face, and a sense of helplessness washed over him. He gently cradled her head, trying to keep her still. The girl's breath came in short gasps, and he could see tears welling in her eyes. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead, speaking softly, though he knew she couldn't understand the words. It was his instinct to comfort, to assure her that everything would be all right, even though he feared the worst. The sound of sirens approached in the distance, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. As he waited, he noticed the way her small fingers clutched the teddy bear, as if it were her lifeline. Ethan's mind raced, thinking of all the moments he had taken for granted, the love and comfort he had enjoyed as a child. This little girl, Sophia, was a world away from his privileged life. He could see the dirt smudged on her cheeks, the worn clothes that spoke of a life filled with struggle. Yet, there was a flicker of strength in her eyes, a resilience that stirred something deep within him. The moments stretched into eternity as they both waited for help to arrive. Ethan could feel his heart pounding in his chest, a rhythmic drumbeat that echoed his growing concern. He glanced over his shoulder, searching for any sign of Sophia's mother amidst the gathering crowd. People were stopping, some pulling out their phones, others expressing shock and concern, but no one seemed to know how to help. When the ambulance finally arrived, the paramedics moved with trained efficiency, but Ethan remained by Sophia's side, reluctant to let go. He watched as they carefully assessed her injuries, their faces a mixture of professionalism and urgency. Sophia's eyes darted around, panicked and confused, and Ethan felt an overwhelming urge to reassure her. He spoke to her calmly, telling her that help was here, that she was going to be okay, but deep down, he feared he might be lying. As the paramedics lifted her onto a stretcher, Sophia clutched the teddy bear even tighter, her small knuckles white with the effort. Ethan felt a pang of sorrow as he realized how vulnerable she truly was. He made the decision to follow them to the hospital, an inexplicable pull urging him to protect her, to be there for her in this moment of crisis. He knew he was just a stranger, but the connection felt deeper, as if their fates were intertwined in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. The ambulance doors swung shut with a finality that left Ethan standing alone in the street, the city's lights twinkling around him. A sense of urgency propelled him forward, and he hurried to his car, the engine roaring to life as he navigated the streets toward the hospital. Each red light felt like an eternity, his mind racing with thoughts of Sophia and the unknown challenges she faced. Upon arriving at the hospital, the fluorescent lights were harsh and cold, a stark contrast to the warmth of the gala he had just left. The waiting room was filled with anxious families, each lost in their own worries. Ethan took a seat, his heart still racing. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was somehow responsible for this little girl's well-being, despite being a mere bystander in the events that had unfolded. Time passed slowly, each tick of the clock echoing in the silence. Ethan's mind wandered, reflecting on his life, his achievements, and the emptiness that often accompanied them. He had built a successful empire, yet here he was, feeling more alive than he had in years, simply by being present in this moment of vulnerability. The world outside felt distant and unimportant, overshadowed by the weight of his concern for Sophia. He glanced around the waiting room, taking in the worried faces of other families. A mother cradled her infant, her eyes red from tears. An elderly man sat alone, staring blankly at the floor. Each person had their own story, their own struggles, and in that moment, Ethan felt a deep sense of solidarity with them. The city, once a place of isolation for him, suddenly felt like a shared space of hope and resilience. As Ethan sat there, anxiety gnawing at him like a relentless tide, he couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was destined to change him. The weight of compassion settled heavily on his heart, a reminder of the humanity that often got lost in the pursuit of success. He closed his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath, and tried to envision a future where he could make a difference, not just for Sophia, but for others like her. In that waiting room, amidst the sterile surroundings and the whispers of concern, Ethan felt something shift within him. He was no longer just a businessman. He was a witness to the fragility of life, a participant in a story that was far greater than his own. As he opened his eyes and looked at the clock again, he knew he would stay, that he would be there for Sophia, and whatever came next, he would face it head-on. As the hours stretched on in the sterile, fluorescent-lit waiting room, Ethan's heart drummed an anxious rhythm against his ribcage. Each tick of the clock echoed in the silence, amplifying his worries. He had been sitting in the same uncomfortable plastic chair, his hands clasped tightly in his lap, for what felt like an eternity. The faint sounds of distant beeping machines and muffled voices of medical staff filled the air, but his focus remained solely on the door through which the doctor would eventually emerge. Ethan's mind raced with thoughts of the little girl, Sophia. The image of her small, fragile body lying on the asphalt haunted him. The way her teddy bear had clutched tightly in her arms, a silent witness to the chaos that had unfolded. Despite being a stranger, he felt a deep sense of responsibility for her well-being, an urge to protect her that he couldn't quite comprehend. He replayed the moments in his mind, the sound of the motorcycle skidding, the shouts of bystanders, and the way Sophia's eyes had widened in fear. He had acted instinctively, but now, with time to think, he questioned whether he had done enough. When the door finally swung open, a doctor stepped into the waiting area, his face a mask of professionalism, yet Ethan could sense the weight of his words before they were spoken. The doctor approached him, and Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The man's demeanor was calm, but there was an undeniable tension in the air that hinted at the gravity of the situation. Ethan listened intently as the doctor provided the update. Sophia was stable, but she would need surgery to address her injuries. Relief washed over him momentarily, but it was quickly overshadowed by a wave of guilt. He felt as if he had somehow failed her by not preventing the accident in the first place. The doctor's words, while reassuring, did little to quell the turmoil inside him. He nodded, absorbing every detail, yet his thoughts remained fixated on the little girl who had touched his life in such a profound way. With the doctor's departure, Ethan found himself staring vacantly at the wall, the sterile environment of the hospital beginning to feel suffocating. He had always been consumed by his business, his life a whirlwind of meetings and deals, but now he was confronted with the fragility of life, the reality that everything could change in the blink of an eye. The bustling city outside felt distant, as if he were in a different world altogether. Hours passed, and the waiting room began to fill with other families. Ethan observed them quietly, noting how each person carried their own burdens. A young couple sat huddled together, their faces pale with worry. An elderly man paced anxiously, glancing periodically at his watch. A mother cradled a baby, whispering soothing words as if trying to transfer her strength to the child. Each of these families had their own stories, their own struggles, and for the first time in his life, Ethan felt a profound connection to the community around him. A community that had been invisible to him before. He shifted in his chair, trying to shake off the heaviness in his heart. The stories of those around him stirred something within him, a realization that his own life had been overly focused on success and status, often at the expense of genuine connection. He thought back to Sophia's innocent dreams, her fears, and the way she had looked at him with trust in her eyes. The realization struck him that, despite their differences, they were all interconnected by the shared experience of love and loss, hope and despair. Just as he began to contemplate the impact of his choices, the doors swung open again, and a frantic figure burst into the waiting room. Maria, Sophia's mother, rushed in, her brow glistening with sweat, her breath coming in quick gasps. Ethan's heart sank at the sight of her distress. She scanned the room, her eyes wide with panic, until they locked onto Ethan's. In that moment, the air seemed to thicken, and time stood still. Maria's face was a canvas of emotions, fear, desperation, and a flicker of hope. Ethan felt an overwhelming urge to reach out, to comfort her, but he remained rooted in his seat, unsure of how to bridge the gap between them. He could see the weight of the world on her shoulders, the fear for her daughter's life etched into every line of her face. It was a reflection of his own worries, amplifying the connection they shared in that instant. As Maria approached, Ethan prepared himself to explain what had happened, to share the details of the accident and the subsequent events. He wanted her to know that he had been there for Sophia, that she was not alone in this. But as he opened his mouth to speak, words escaped him. He could only offer her a nod, a silent acknowledgement of their shared pain. Maria's frantic energy filled the space between them, creating an invisible barrier that felt both fragile and impenetrable. She was a mother, fighting against the tide of despair, and Ethan could see the depths of her love for Sophia reflected in her eyes. There was an unspoken understanding that tethered them together, a bond forged in the crucible of fear and uncertainty. In the following moments, they stood together in silence, the weight of their worries hanging palpably in the air. Ethan felt a stirring within him, a desire to connect, to support her in whatever way he could. He couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was more than just a twist of fate. It felt like a turning point, a chance to redefine his understanding of family and responsibility. As the minutes ticked by, Ethan watched Maria pace restlessly, her hands wringing together as she fought against the rising tide of anxiety. He wished he could offer her more than just his presence. He wanted to share the burden she carried, to assure her that they were in this together, even if their paths had only just intersected. Ethan's thoughts drifted to the future, a future that seemed uncertain and fraught with challenges. He thought of Sophia, lying in a hospital bed, and the potential of her life hanging in the balance. He had always believed that success was measured by wealth and achievement, but now he was beginning to see that true fulfillment came from the connections we forge and the lives we touch. With resolve building within him, Ethan took a step forward, ready to share his heart and his intentions. He wanted to be more than just a bystander in this unfolding story. In that moment, he realized that the path ahead was not just about Sophia's recovery, but about the lives intertwined in this journey, his and Maria's. It was a chance to build something meaningful amidst the chaos. As he opened his mouth to speak, Ethan felt the weight of the world shift ever so slightly. The bond he felt with Maria and Sophia was more than mere coincidence. It was a call to action, a chance to redefine what family meant in the midst of hardship. And as he prepared to share his thoughts, he knew deep down that this moment would forever alter the course of their lives, an unexpected connection that would lead to something beautiful and profound. As Maria stood in the sterile hospital corridor, her heart raced with a mixture of fear and disbelief. The fluorescent lights overhead cast a cold glow on her pale face, highlighting the worry etched in her features. Ethan, still shaken from the accident, watched her as she absorbed the news of her daughter's injury. It was an overwhelming moment, one that seemed to stretch in time as Maria's breath hitched and her eyes glistened with unshed tears. The reality of the situation crashed over her like a wave, and Ethan felt a profound urge to reach out, to offer comfort in a world that had suddenly turned upside down for her. He stepped closer, his heart aching for this woman who had been thrust into such despair. The weight of her sorrow was palpable, and he could see the flicker of hope beginning to dim in her eyes. Maria's hands trembled as she clutched her phone, her lifeline to Sophia, the little girl who had captured Ethan's heart the moment he had rushed to her side. He felt an inexplicable connection to both of them, a bond forged in the crucible of fear and uncertainty. As the moments passed, Maria's composure began to crack. She sank onto a nearby chair, her head falling into her hands, muffling the sobs that racked her body. Ethan instinctively moved closer, unsure of what to say but desperate to provide solace. He knelt beside her, a silent support, allowing her to grieve without interruption. It was in that moment of shared silence that they both began to understand the weight of their circumstances. Maria's thoughts swirled in a chaotic storm. Memories of her daughter's laughter and the dreams she had nurtured for Sophia played like a film reel in her mind. The small apartment they shared, filled with drawings of fairies and rainbows, seemed like a distant dream compared to the stark reality of the hospital. She had fought so hard to provide a better life for her daughter, and now, in a cruel twist of fate, she found herself helpless, waiting for news that could shatter her world. Ethan could see the turmoil within her, and he felt a rush of admiration for her resilience. Despite the crushing weight of fear, she fought to maintain hope for Sophia. As the minutes stretched into what felt like hours, Maria's breathing started to steady. Ethan remained beside her, a silent anchor amidst her storm. They sat in a shared space of vulnerability, two souls connected by circumstance, both yearning for the same outcome. Maria's eyes, once filled with despair, began to reflect a flicker of strength as she glanced at Ethan, who remained steadfast in his quiet support. In that moment, as the wailing of distant sirens echoed through the hallways, Maria found herself sharing the story of her journey as an immigrant. She spoke of the sacrifices she had made, the long nights spent working multiple jobs to ensure Sophia had food and a roof over her head. With each word, the weight of her struggles fell away, if only for a moment, as she connected with Ethan in a way she hadn't anticipated. He listened intently, his heart swelling with admiration for her courage and determination. Ethan, in turn, found himself sharing snippets of his life. He spoke of the privileges that had come with his success, the weight of expectations that often felt suffocating. As he recounted his journey, he realized how fortunate he had been, yet the emptiness that sometimes accompanied his achievements began to surface. There was a void within him, a longing for connection and meaning that had eluded him amidst the chaos of his work-driven life. The two shared a silent understanding, a bond forged in the fires of hardship. They were both navigating their worlds, yet their paths had converged in this hospital waiting room, where the stakes felt incomprehensibly high. Maria's courage in the face of adversity resonated deeply with Ethan, awakening something within him, a desire to protect, to nurture, and to be present for those who mattered. As they continued to wait together, the air around them seemed to shift. The sterile scent of antiseptic faded into the background, replaced by an unspoken camaraderie. They were two people from vastly different worlds, yet in that moment, they were united by their love for Sophia. Ethan's heart swelled with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. He could sense that his life was changing, that the connection he felt with Maria was not merely a fleeting moment of compassion, but something deeper, something that could redefine his understanding of family. Just as they began to delve deeper into their stories, the sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor, breaking the fragile bubble of their shared moment. Both turned instinctively toward the source of the noise, their hearts racing with anticipation. The doctor's figure emerged, his expression unreadable as he approached them. Ethan felt a knot form in his stomach, the weight of dread settling heavily on his chest. He could see the tension in Maria's posture, her shoulders rigid as she braced herself for the news. The doctor paused before them, the gravity of the situation evident in his demeanor. Ethan's pulse quickened as he prepared himself for whatever words would follow. The air was thick with anxiety, an electric current that pulsed between them as they awaited the verdict on Sophia's condition. Maria's hand instinctively reached for Ethan's, seeking comfort in the shared fear that enveloped them both. Ethan's mind raced, thoughts swirling around the possibilities of what could lie ahead. He had witnessed the fragility of life in that hospital, the delicate balance between hope and despair. He felt a profound sense of responsibility toward Maria and Sophia, a desire to be a source of strength in their darkest hour. Whatever the outcome, he knew he would not shy away from the challenge. He would stand by Maria, ready to face the storm together, whatever it may bring. As the doctor prepared to speak, Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. The moment felt suspended in time, the world around them fading into insignificance. All that mattered was Sophia, a little girl with dreams and laughter, lying in a hospital bed. And in that moment, Ethan realized that this connection was not just an accident of fate. It was a call to action, a chance to embrace the unexpected ties that bind us in ways we often fail to understand. The journey of love, sacrifice, and family was unfolding before him, and he was ready to embrace it, whatever the outcome may be. Ethan stood beside Maria, his heart still heavy with the weight of the moment. The doctor had just delivered the news they both desperately needed to hear. The surgery was a success. The relief washed over him like a wave, but it was quickly accompanied by an overwhelming sense of responsibility. As Maria's gratitude poured forth, her trembling hands clasping his in a gesture of thanks, Ethan felt a surge of protectiveness toward both her and Sophia. He had only known them for a few hours, yet the bond was undeniable. Maria's eyes glistened with tears, a mixture of relief and exhaustion washing over her features. Ethan could see the lines of worry etched deep into her face, a testament to her struggles as an immigrant mother. In that moment, he realized that her life had been a constant battle, one marked by sacrifice and resilience. The connection he felt with her transcended the circumstances that had brought them together. It was a recognition of shared humanity. As they stood in the sterile hospital corridor, the muted sounds of nurses and doctors bustling about faded into the background. Time seemed to stretch infinitely, and Ethan's thoughts turned to Sophia, who was now resting in recovery. He imagined the little girl's gentle smile, the way she clutched her teddy bear, and the dreams she had shared with him. She wanted to be a doctor, to heal others. In that moment, he felt an overwhelming urge to protect her dreams, to support her mother in any way he could. Ethan took a deep breath and broached the subject that had been weighing on his mind. The thought of Maria struggling with medical bills gnawed at him. He could not shake the feeling that he should do something, anything, to alleviate her burden. As he offered his assistance, he could see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Pride and fear warred within her, evident in the slight quiver of her lips. Maria hesitated, her gaze drifting to the floor as if searching for the right words to articulate the tumult of her emotions. Ethan understood her reluctance. Accepting help was often more challenging than giving it. He could see the internal conflict playing out behind her eyes, the desire to protect her dignity clashing with the reality of their situation. It was a moment of vulnerability, and Ethan felt honored that she would share it with him. He stepped closer, allowing the warmth of his presence to envelop her. It was a silent promise that he did not judge her for needing help. He admired her for the strength she exhibited in the face of adversity. The hospital room was cold, but around them, a tentative warmth began to bloom, a connection forged in shared struggles and mutual understanding. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Maria nodded slowly, her decision made. Acceptance washed over her, and a sense of relief mingled with the remnants of her pride. They exchanged contact information, and Ethan felt a surge of hope. He promised to check on Sophia's recovery, to be there for them both in the days to come. The weight of responsibility transformed into a sense of purpose, and Ethan's heart swelled with a feeling that he had not experienced in a long time. As the two of them stood in the hospital corridor, exchanging glances and silent promises, Ethan couldn't help but reflect on the unpredictable nature of life. A chance encounter had led him to this moment, and he wondered how it would shape both their futures. The city outside continued to pulse with life, but in that moment, within the confines of the hospital, a new chapter began to unfold. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan's visits to the hospital became a comforting routine. Each time he walked through the sterile halls, the scent of antiseptic mingling with the faint aroma of coffee from the cafeteria, he felt a growing connection to Sophia and Maria. He found himself eagerly anticipating the moments he would spend with them, the laughter they shared, and the stories that unfolded. Sophia's recovery was slow but steady. Each day, Ethan would sit by her bedside, regaling her with tales of adventure and success, weaving a tapestry of dreams that ignited her imagination. He watched her eyes light up as she spoke of her aspirations to become a doctor, her small hands gesturing animatedly as she described the lives she wanted to touch. Ethan marveled at the resilience of the little girl. Even in her fragility, she exuded a strength that inspired him. Maria, too, began to open up. Their conversations flowed naturally, an exchange of stories and laughter that filled the room with warmth. She shared her journey, the hardships she faced as an immigrant, and the sacrifices she had made to give Sophia a better life. Ethan listened intently, captivated by her strength and determination. Each word she spoke revealed layers of her character, and he found himself drawn to her resilience, her unwavering love for her daughter, and the dreams she held close to her heart. As they shared meals in the hospital cafeteria, a sense of camaraderie blossomed between them. They laughed over shared plates of food, the mundane moments transforming into cherished memories. Ethan learned about Maria's favorite recipes from her homeland, the spices and flavors that danced on her tongue, and he found himself yearning to experience them firsthand. Their conversations revealed vulnerabilities, hopes, and dreams that transcended their circumstances. But beneath the surface of their growing friendship, Ethan felt an undercurrent of something deeper. It was a connection that transcended friendship, an unspoken bond that began to weave their lives together in ways he had never anticipated. He found himself looking forward to each visit, and as the days turned into weeks, the lines between compassion and something more began to blur. One afternoon, as they sat together in the hospital cafeteria, the sunlight filtered through the windows, casting a warm glow on their table. Maria spoke of a small, secret family heirloom that had been passed down through generations, a locket containing a picture of her late father. Her voice turned wistful as she recounted the stories her mother had told her, tales of love and sacrifice intertwined with the locket's history. Ethan felt a pang of curiosity. He sensed that this locket held more than just sentimental value. As Maria shared her memories, Ethan listened intently, captivated by the depth of her emotions. He admired the way she spoke about her father, the love that resonated in her voice. It was clear that the locket was a cherished symbol of her family's legacy, a reminder of the sacrifices made for a better life. Ethan felt an overwhelming urge to understand more, to delve deeper into the history that connected them both. Yet, even as he listened, he could not shake the feeling that their paths were intertwined in ways he had yet to grasp. The more time he spent with Maria, the more he sensed that their lives were bound by a shared past, a history that remained just out of reach. The thought lingered in the back of his mind, a whisper that hinted at something profound waiting to be uncovered. As Sophia continued her recovery, Ethan found himself grappling with the complexity of his feelings. He cared deeply for both Maria and Sophia, but there was an undeniable tension that simmered beneath the surface. He was drawn to Maria's strength, her vulnerability, and the way she navigated the world with grace despite the challenges she faced. Each moment spent with her felt like a step closer to understanding the connection that bound them. In the stillness of the hospital evenings, as he observed the flickering lights outside the window, Ethan contemplated the unpredictable nature of life. His chance encounter had led him to this moment, but what lay ahead was yet to be discovered. The bond he felt with Maria and Sophia was undeniable, yet it was laced with questions that begged to be answered. Little did he know that the journey ahead would unravel the very fabric of his existence, leading him to a truth that would forever change their lives. As days turned into weeks, The sterile scent of antiseptic became a familiar backdrop to Ethan's visits to the hospital. The dim light of the waiting room, punctuated by the muted sounds of medical equipment, felt strangely comforting to him now. He had grown accustomed to the rhythm of the hospital, the ebb and flow of nurses and doctors, the occasional laughter of families reunited, and the whispers of worry that hung in the air like a heavy fog. Each visit felt like a small pilgrimage, an offering of support to Sophia and her mother Maria. Sophia, with her bright, curious eyes and an indomitable spirit, quickly became a source of inspiration for Ethan. Despite the bandages and the lingering pain from her surgery, she radiated a tenacity that captivated him. Each time he entered her room, he was greeted with a wide smile that could light up the dreariest of days. They spent hours talking, with Ethan encouraging her to share her dreams. She spoke of wanting to become a doctor, her small hands gesturing animatedly as she explained how she wanted to help others, just as the doctors were helping her. Her ambition, pure and untainted by the harsh realities of life, sparked a fire within him. He admired her determination, a testament to the resilience that often emerged from the most challenging circumstances. Ethan found himself returning to the hospital not just out of obligation, but out of a genuine desire to be there for Sophia and Maria. The bond he formed with the young girl spilled over into his interactions with her mother. Maria, initially a figure of worry and fear, transformed into a woman of strength and grace in his eyes. Their conversations became a refuge for both of them, a space where they could share their fears and hopes without judgment. Maria's laughter, though at times tinged with sadness, was a melody that played during their shared meals in the hospital cafeteria, where they would huddle over trays of hospital food, finding joy in the simple act of eating together. In these moments, they began to peel back the layers of their lives, revealing the vulnerabilities that lay beneath the surface. Maria spoke of her journey as an immigrant, the sacrifices she made to ensure that Sophia had a better life. Ethan listened intently, his heart swelling with admiration for her resilience. He learned that Maria had left everything behind in her home country, her family, her friends, the familiar streets of her childhood, driven by the desperate hope of providing a brighter future for her daughter. Her stories painted a vivid picture of the struggles they had faced, the sleepless nights spent worrying about rent and food, and the relentless pursuit of the American dream that often felt just out of reach. Ethan, in turn, shared pieces of his own life, the pressures of being a successful businessman, the loneliness that often accompanied wealth, and the void that echoed in his heart despite the accolades and achievements. He confessed the emptiness that had settled in after his father's passing, a loss that had left him grappling with a sense of purpose. As they exchanged their stories, a palpable connection formed between them, an understanding that transcended their different backgrounds. They found solace in each other, two souls navigating the tumultuous waters of life, each seeking a shore of hope and connection. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow through the hospital windows, Maria leaned back in her chair, her gaze distant as if she were lost in thought. Ethan noticed the way her fingers absent-mindedly traced the edge of a small locket around her neck, its silver surface glinting in the fading light. Curiosity bubbled within him, and he felt a magnetic pull toward the heirloom. It was clear that the locket held significance, a piece of her history that she treasured deeply. "It's a family heirloom," Maria finally said, her voice soft yet filled with a weight of nostalgia. "It has been passed down for generations. My grandmother gave it to my mother, and now it belongs to me. Inside, there's a picture of my father." Her eyes sparkled momentarily with warmth as she spoke of him, a fleeting joy that quickly transformed into a shadow of sadness. "He was a good man, a businessman in our home country. He worked hard to provide for us, just like I do for Sophia." Ethan felt a strange stirring within him as he listened to her words. The mention of her father, a businessman, sent ripples of recognition through him. He leaned forward, intent on grasping the connection that felt just out of reach. The name of her father danced on the tip of his tongue, a whisper of familiarity that he could not quite articulate. He had heard the stories of his father's business partner, a man who had shared dreams and ambitions with his own father. The memories were hazy but vivid enough to spark a realization that something deeper bound their lives together. As the evening wore on, they continued to share their lives, the locket occasionally catching the light, a silent witness to their unfolding connection. Maria spoke of the struggles of immigrating alone, the weight of her responsibilities, and the ache of missing her family. Ethan listened, captivated by her strength. He felt a swell of emotions, admiration, empathy, and an inexplicable sense of kinship that blossomed with every shared moment. Sometimes, as they shared laughter over cafeteria meals or reminisced about their childhoods, Ethan caught glimpses of the future he had never dared to envision. The walls he had built around his heart began to crack, allowing warmth to seep through. He found himself wondering what it would be like to build a life intertwined with Maria and Sophia, a family forged not by blood but by shared experiences and mutual support. The idea both terrified and exhilarated him. Their friendship deepened, and with it, the unspoken tension between them grew more palpable. Ethan often caught himself stealing glances at Maria, her laughter ringing like music in his ears. He noticed the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke of Sophia's progress, how her face lit up with pride. The contrast of their backgrounds and the weight of their struggles only served to intensify the connection he felt toward her. He was drawn to her warmth and the fierce love she had for her daughter, a love that resonated with his own longing for belonging. As Maria shared her stories, Ethan felt a strange sense of comfort enveloping him. He had never imagined that such a bond could form in the sterile confines of a hospital room, yet here he was, tethered to this woman and her daughter in a way that felt destined. Each visit, each shared meal, each laugh exchanged was a thread weaving their lives closer together, crafting a tapestry of connection that was both beautiful and complex. The hospital, once a place of fear and uncertainty, transformed into a sanctuary of hope and burgeoning love, a space where the past met the present, and the possibility of a shared future glimmered just on the horizon. As Ethan mulled over the life-changing moments that had led him here, he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. The chance encounter that had ignited this journey filled him with a profound realization. Sometimes, the most unexpected connections could illuminate paths that had long been shrouded in darkness. As Sophia continued her recovery, the atmosphere in the hospital room shifted subtly, filled with the scent of antiseptic mingling with the faint aroma of flowers that Maria had arranged by the window. The soft hum of medical equipment blended with the whispers of nurses bustling in the corridor, creating a backdrop to the unfolding emotions that swirled in the air. Maria sat at Sophia's bedside, gently stroking her daughter's hair, her expression a mixture of hope and lingering worry. As she spoke of the locket that had been passed down through generations, her voice trembled with reverence. The locket, she explained, was a precious heirloom adorned with intricate designs, a tangible connection to her father who had passed away years ago. Maria's fingers brushed against the cool metal as she recounted tales of her father's kindness and hard work, the sacrifices he made for his family to achieve a better life. Ethan listened intently, captivated not only by her words, but also by the passion that radiated from her as she spoke of her father. The stories painted a vivid picture of a man who had been a guiding light in her life, instilling in her the values of resilience and love. But as Maria spoke, a shadow crossed Ethan's face. The name that she mentioned, the family name associated with her father, resonated deeply within him. Suddenly, a cascade of memories flooded his mind, memories of his own father and the man who had been his business partner many years ago. A sense of unease washed over him, the realization creeping in slowly, like a fog enveloping a familiar landscape. He had known this name, had heard it echoed in the corridors of his childhood, intertwined with the legacy of their families. Ethan's heart raced as he struggled to reconcile the fragments of his past with the present moment. The connection between them felt almost surreal, as if fate had orchestrated their paths to converge in this hospital room, filled with uncertainty and hope. He could hardly breathe as the weight of the revelation settled on his shoulders. Maria continued to speak, oblivious to the storm brewing within him, her words painting a picture of love and sacrifice, of a family that had endured hardship and strife. A flash of recognition struck him. His father had often reminisced about a partnership that had flourished amidst challenges, sharing a bond that transcended business. The camaraderie and mutual respect they had cultivated had been a cornerstone of their lives. Ethan could vividly recall the laughter shared over dinner tables, the stories exchanged, and the dreams woven together. Yet, as he pieced together the fragments of this connection, he realized that he had never truly understood the depth of that bond, nor the implications it held for his own life. The moment Maria paused, Ethan felt a surge of emotion bubbling within him. He could no longer remain silent. The truth needed to be revealed, to be laid bare before them both, like an unwrapped gift that had long been hidden away. Drawing in a deep breath, he prepared to unravel the tapestry of their intertwined destinies. With a heavy heart and trembling hands, Ethan turned to Maria, his voice low but steady. As he spoke, he recounted the memories of his father's partnership, the laughter, the shared dreams, and the unyielding support they had provided each other. He revealed how he had known her father, not just as an acquaintance, but as a pivotal figure in his own family's history. The words poured out, each syllable laden with the significance of their connection. Maria's eyes widened in disbelief as the pieces began to fall into place. The shock rippled through her, altering the very fabric of their relationship in an instant. The air thickened with unspoken emotions, and for a moment, time stood still. Both of them were engulfed in a wave of recognition, an understanding that transcended the boundaries of their current lives. They were not just two individuals brought together by fate. They were intricately linked by a shared past, by the sacrifices their families had made, and by the legacy that continued to resonate through the generations. In that profound silence, the walls of separation began to crumble. What had once felt like an insurmountable divide transformed into a bridge of empathy, understanding, and compassion. The room, once filled with the sterile scent of antiseptic, now echoed with the warmth of a budding connection, as if the universe itself had conspired to bring them together at this pivotal moment. Ethan and Maria exchanged glances, their eyes reflecting a kaleidoscope of emotions: shock, disbelief, and an unexpected sense of belonging. In that instant, the weight of their struggles seemed to dissipate, replaced by the realization that they were not alone in their journey. They had found each other amidst the chaos of their lives, and this newfound bond offered a glimmer of hope amidst the uncertainty of the future. As they embraced, the world around them faded into the background. The hospital room, with its clinical atmosphere, transformed into a sanctuary, a sacred space where two souls, once strangers, became intertwined. The embrace encapsulated years of longing, of familial love lost and found again. In that moment, they understood that love could take many forms, that family could be forged from the most unexpected connections. With their hearts intertwined, Ethan and Maria began to navigate the uncharted waters of their relationship. The challenges that lay ahead were daunting, but they faced them together, buoyed by the strength of their bond. The locket, now a symbol of their shared history, became a beacon of hope, guiding them through the complexities of life. As the days turned into weeks, their friendship blossomed into something deeper. They shared laughter and tears, memories and dreams, each encounter solidifying the foundation of a new family. Sophia's recovery became a shared mission, a testament to their resilience and unwavering support for one another. The hospital, once a place of fear and uncertainty, transformed into a canvas where they painted their hopes and aspirations, creating a vibrant tapestry of love and connection. In the end, it was not just about the struggles they faced, but about the strength they discovered within themselves and each other. The unexpected ties that bound them transcended their individual challenges, revealing the profound beauty of love, sacrifice, and the intricate web of family that could be woven from the threads of their lives. As they walked hand in hand into the future, they understood that their journey was just beginning, a journey filled with endless possibilities, hope, and the promise of a new beginning.